Welcome to Flourish in 5. My name is Heather Lottinen, and every Friday I share a story, a lesson, or a quick idea with the goal of helping you gain a new perspective. If you could please do me a favor and share this episode with your friends, I would really appreciate it. It helps us to get the word out about the podcast. Recently on Facebook, I posted the following question: how are you complicit in creating the conditions you say you don't want? And the responses were kind of interesting. Actually, I posted this in two places. I posted it on my personal profile, and there were a lot of really surface level replies to this, but I also posted it in our high level coaching program, Elevate, because I wanted to dig deeper. And I think people were reading this too, I don't know what the right word is, lightly. They weren't going deep enough. Let me give you an example. My friend Jess is hilarious. She said, I'm really going to need to think about this, but the first thing that jumps into my mind is that I really need to be better about drinking enough water. And I said, okay, addressing your dehydration is certainly very important, but I think we need to go a little bit deeper than that. And to be honest, I struggle with this question as well. So I reframed it and I'm asking myself, what conditions are in my life right now that I don't want? So I want you to ask yourself the same thing. I want you to think for a second, just pause. What are the conditions in your life right now that you don't want? And the next part of that question is, how are you complicit in creating those conditions? Okay, because you have responsibility and ownership here. But I wonder if there are conditions in your life where you truly believe that it is the result of another person. Like it has nothing to do with you and it is not your fault. Well, here's the thing. If there's something in your life that you don't want and you don't think it's your fault, you think it's because someone else is doing something, then you're never going to be able to change it. But if you take 100% responsibility for everything that is happening in your life, then you will admit that you created these conditions. You were somehow complicit in them. You created them somehow, which means that you can solve them. You created the problem. You can solve the problem. But if you don't take ownership, then how will you ever be able to fix it? You won't, because you'll be just a victim of circumstance. So I like to pose this question to my kids, when they're bickering with one another. They'll talk about the other person and I'll say, okay, I understand they wronged you somehow, but what is your role in this? Because you can't do anything about what the other person is doing. You can only control your response and where, when, if you take action. Okay, so think about maybe the big areas of your life where this is a common issue. Things maybe around your finances or your health or your relationships, your spirituality, your career. These are the major categories in your life. If you are struggling with your finances or you are in debt and you can't pay your bills, you created that problem, which is good news actually, because that means that you can solve the problem. But you might be ignoring something under the guise of, I didn't create it, or it's not my fault, so I'm not going to address it. But that doesn't solve the problem that is the condition in your life that you don't wish to be experiencing, right? The question is, how are you complicit in creating the conditions that you say you don't want? Because if you truly did not want those conditions, you would find a way to solve the problem, or you would take some ownership. So another common one is weight or exercise and health. I have a weight window that I like to be within. If I'm not within that weight window, then I need to change something. I need to change my diet. I need to change my exercise, or my weight is not going to change. So are you within your weight window right now, or are you near your goal weight? And if the answer to that question is no, then you are not addressing your health. You are complicit in not addressing your health. And that's up to you, because nobody can do your push-ups for you. And your relationships. Where are you maybe tolerating poor behavior, or not speaking up for yourself, or not taking ownership of an issue, or not addressing it in the hopes that it will just magically disappear? The truth is, you are complicit. You are. You are complicit in creating the conditions that you say you don't want. You say you don't want them, and it's easier just to sit around and complain about it than to do anything about it. But listen, if my friends do, okay, admittedly, it's not easy to be one of my friends. It is not. And sometimes I have to check myself. And when a friend comes to me with an issue, sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, do you need me to just listen and be here for you? Or are you really seeking help? Because you go to your friends complaining about something as if you want to solve it and you want help. But the truth is, you don't. You just want to sit around and complain about it. Listen, there's no judgment here. Your reasons are probably valid. We've talked about excuses. We talked about them recently. If you are in debt and you can't make your minimum payments, or you're struggling because you lost your job or something happened, those are real reasons, and you can keep those reasons or you can have progress, but you cannot have both. So either you address the issue and you take care of it, or you say, well, I can't do that because of, enter your excuse. And that's fine. You can keep the excuse. You just can't have progress. I have very little tolerance for anyone who sits around and complains about conditions in their life that they say they don't want, because you can change anything. You are not a tree. You're not planted in the ground. You can move. You can put forth some effort, and you can make a difference in your own life. So again, I understand it's hard to be my friend because if they come to me with something, I tend to want to help. And I do that by saying, what's your role in this? How can you take responsibility? And where can you make a change? And sometimes people don't want to hear that. Sometimes they just want to feel sorry for themselves. They want to continue to play the victim, because if you're the victim, if it's truly, truly outside of your control, then you're off the hook. You don't have to do anything because you can't. It's not your responsibility. I want you to ask yourself really this two-part question. The first part is, how are you complicit in creating the conditions you say you don't want? And if you're struggling with that, if you can't come up with anything, then change the question and ask yourself first, what conditions are in my life right now that I don't want? So that would be the first part of the question. And then revisit, how are you complicit in that? I'll see you in the next episode.